Hey guys, tonight we're going to destroy the greatest library humanity has ever known. Not because we want to, but because history did. And you're going to watch it burn from the inside. Now dim the lights, maybe light a candle if you're feeling historical. Let the hum of the modern world fade. We're traveling back 1,600 years to a city that held all the answers. But tonight, as you dip your reed pen in ink for what you think is just another ordinary day, the world outside is sharpening its knives, and they're coming for everything you love. But before the knives, before the smoke, before the screaming, there was this, an ordinary morning, the kind you'd forget if you didn't know it was one of your last. So let's live it together, you and me, one more time. It's early March, 391 AD. You're 25 years old, and you're waking up in a room that smells like unwashed wool and stale bread. Not your room, exactly. You share it with three other scribes: Marcus, who snores like a dying donkey; Apollonius, your supervisor, who's already awake and muttering prayers to gods the empire doesn't want anymore; and Demetrius, the youngest, a recent convert to Christianity who still crosses himself nervously every time someone mentions Athene. No alarm clock, obviously. You wake because the sun is rude enough to climb through the window and slap you in the face. No curtains either. Curtains are for rich people. You're a scribe. You copy books for a living. You'll die a scribe. If you're lucky, you sit up. Your back cracks in 3 places. Congratulations, you're 25 going on 50. That's what happens when you spend 12 hours a day hunched over papyrus. Your bed is a thin mattress stuffed with straw, lumpy, itchy, but it's yours, well rented. You share the cost with the others. 4 men, 1 room, 12 drachmae a month. In Alexandria, that's a bargain. You stand. The floor is cool clay. No shoes yet, you'll put those on later. First, breakfast. There's bread on the table, hard bread. The kind that could double as a weapon if the Vandals ever invade. You tear off a piece, dip it in olive oil, chew. It tastes like history, which is to say vaguely disappointing but filling enough. There's goat cheese too, crumbly and sharp. A handful of dried figs. A cup of water from the clay jug Marcus filled yesterday from the public fountain. No coffee, obviously. Coffee won't reach the Mediterranean for another 1,000 years. No tea either, just water, room temperature. Enjoy, you eat standing up. Marcus is still snoring. Apollonius is by the window now, watching the street below, his lips moving silently. Praying, maybe, or cursing, hard to tell with him. Demetrius is scrubbing his face with a wet rag. He nods at you, you nod back. Big day, he says. Every day's a big day, you reply, because you're 25 and you think you're deep. He smiles, doesn't agree, doesn't argue, just smiles. You'll remember that smile later, when everything's burning. Hygiene in the 4th century is, let's call it, creative. No soap, not the kind you know anyway. There's olive oil which you rub on your skin, then scrape off with a curved bronze tool called a strigil. It works, sort of. You smell like olives, which is better than smelling like a human who hasn't bathed in 3 days. But you don't have time for a full scrape down this morning. You splash water on your face, run damp fingers through your hair, call it good. The library won't care. The books definitely won't. You pull on your tunic, off-white linen, patched at the shoulder, and tie it with a cord. Sandals next. Leather worn thin at the soles. You've been meaning to replace them for 6 months. You'll get around to it, probably. Apollonius is already at the door. Coming, he asks. You grab your satchel, empty except for a wax tablet and stylus for notes, and follow him out. The streets of Alexandria in the early morning are a symphony of chaos. Merchants shouting in Greek, in Aramaic, in Egyptian, in languages you don't even recognize. The smell of baking bread mixing with the smell of fish guts and human sweat and incense from the temple 2 streets over. A donkey brays. A child laughs. Somewhere, someone is arguing about the price of garum, that fermented fish sauce Romans are obsessed with. You walk east toward the harbor, toward the Mausian. The city is waking up around you, women carrying water jugs on their heads, men pulling carts loaded with clay amphorae, a priest in white robes, shaved head gleaming, walking toward the old temple of Isis. He looks tired, nervous maybe. You don't blame him. The emperor's new laws are clear, the old gods are out, the new god is in, and if you don't convert, well. Let's just say the empire has ways of encouraging theological flexibility. But this morning, the city feels normal, alive. The kind of alive that makes you forget for a moment that everything's changing. You pass a statue of Alexander the Great, the man who built this city 900 years ago. Someone's left flowers at its base, wilted now, but the gesture remains. Apollonius mutters something under his breath as he walks past. You don't catch it. Maybe it's better that way. And then you see it. The library, no, not just the library. The Mauseon, the museum, the temple of the muses. The greatest collection of human knowledge ever assembled, all in one place, all waiting for you. It's part of the Serapeum complex, the massive temple dedicated to Serapis, the Greco-Egyptian god they invented to unite the Greeks and Egyptians under one divine roof. Clever politics that didn't last, but it was clever. The building is marble and limestone, columns taller than any tree you've ever seen. The morning light hits them just right, turning the stone golden. There are gardens, green even in March, even in Egypt, where scholars sit and argue about the nature of the soul or the circumference of the earth or whether Aristophanes was funnier than Menander. You walk through the main gate. The guards know you, they nod, you nod back. Inside, the air changes, it's cooler here, quieter. The smell hits you first, old papyrus, dust, ink, beeswax from the tablets. It's the smell of centuries, of minds long dead still speaking. You love this smell. You'll dream about it for the rest of your life. The main hall is enormous, vaulted ceilings, light streaming through high windows, shelves lining every wall, floor to ceiling, packed with scrolls, tens of thousands of them, each one hand-copied, each one irreplaceable. You see Miriam, the Jewish translator, already at her desk. She's working on a Hebrew text, squinting at the tiny script. She's 30, brilliant, and constantly annoyed that no one takes her seriously because she's a woman. She's right to be annoyed. She looks up as you pass. Early today, she says. Apollonius dragged me out, you reply. She smirks. He's worried. About what? She doesn't answer, just looks back at her scroll. You'll think about that later too. Your workspace is in the East Wing. A simple wooden desk, a stool with no back, a rack of reed pens, and a small clay pot of ink. The ink is your responsibility. You made this batch yourself last week, soot from oil lamps, mixed with gum arabic, thinned with water. It's not fancy, but it works. It'll last 1,000 years if the papyrus does. That's the idea anyway. Your pens are cut from river reeds. You trim them yourself, slicing the tip at an angle, splitting it slightly to hold the ink. A good pen lasts maybe 3 days before it frays. You go through a lot of pens. On your desk, waiting for you, is the scroll you've been copying for the past week. It's a rare copy of Archimedes on the mechanical theorems asterisk. Geometrical proofs, diagrams of levers and pulleys, explanations of how to move the world if you've got a place to stand. Brilliant stuff. Revolutionary, even. This copy is over 100 years old. The papyrus is browning at the edges. Fragile. Someone decided it needs a fresh copy before it disintegrates entirely. That someone is you. Copying a manuscript isn't like printing a book. There's no press, no machine, just you, a pen, some ink, and a hand that cramps after the first hour. You unroll the original scroll carefully, papyrus tears if you're not gentle, and secure it with small weights on either side. Then you unroll a blank sheet of new papyrus. Expensive stuff. Each sheet costs about 2 days' wages. You do not want to screw this up. You dip your pen, you begin. Here's the thing, ancient Greek doesn't have spaces between words. No punctuation either. It's just one long string of letters, all capitals, packed tight. ITLOKSLIKTHIS. Your job is to read it, understand it, and copy it exactly. Exactly. One mistake, one single letter wrong, and you've just corrupted a text that's been passed down for generations. Maybe forever, no pressure, you work slowly, eyes flicking between the original and your copy, hand moving in careful, controlled strokes. The ink flows, darkens, dries, an hour passes, your neck starts to hurt. No ergonomic chairs here, just wood and bad posture. 2 hours, your hand cramps. You flex your fingers, shake out the tension, keep going. 3 hours. You've copied maybe half a column. There are 60 columns in this scroll. You're going to be here a while. Around midday, the bell rings. Time to eat. You set down your pen carefully, don't knock over the ink, for the love of Zeus, and stand. Your spine cracks like a tree in a storm. You're 25. You feel 60. The scribes gather in the garden courtyard. There's bread again, better than breakfast at least, and a pot of lentil stew still warm. Someone brought onions. Someone else brought weak beer. This is the highlight of your day. You sit with Apollonius, Miriam, Demetrius, and a few others. Demetrius is talking, he's always talking. Did you hear? He says, voice low, the emperor's issued another edict. Which emperor? Someone jokes. There have been 6 in the last 20 years. Theodosius, Demetrius says, he's ordered all pagan temples closed across the whole empire. Silence, Miriam breaks it. All of them. All of them. That's insane, you say. Half the empire is still pagan. Not for long, Demetrius mutters. Apollonius sets down his bread. His face is stone. They won't touch this place, he says, firm. Certain, this is a library, a place of learning, not a temple. It's part of the Serapeum, Miriam points out. The Serapeum is a temple, Demetrius adds, quieter now, almost apologetic, technically. Apollonius glares at him. This is knowledge, he says. Knowledge is above religion, above politics. They wouldn't dare. No one argues, but no one agrees either. You eat your lentils, they taste like ash. The afternoon is quieter. You return to your desk. You copy another column, then another. But around the 3rd hour after midday, you take a break. You need to walk, to think, to remember why you're doing this. You wander through the stacks. The medical section, rows and rows of scrolls, Hippocrates, Galen, detailed anatomical drawings, surgical techniques. Recipes for poultices that actually work, knowledge that saves lives. The astronomy section, star charts mapped by Ptolemy himself, predictions of eclipses, calculations of the Earth's circumference accurate to within a few dozen miles. Eratosthenes figured that out 300 years ago using shadows and geometry. The literature section, Homer, obviously, but also Sappho, what's left of her anyway. Plays by Sophocles, Euripides, Aristophanes, some you've read, some you've only heard about. You stop in front of a scroll labeled *Alexandros by Menander. It's a comedy. You've never read it. Maybe you will someday. Spoiler, you won't. This scroll will burn in 3 weeks, but you don't know that yet. You pick up a scroll at random. It's old, really old. The papyrus is brittle, the ink faded. You can barely make out the title. It's a commentary on Plato's Republic, written by someone named Theon, not Theon of Alexandria, different guy. This Theon died 200 years ago. You hold the scroll carefully like it's made of glass. Someone wrote this. Someone sat down, just like you, with a pen and ink and a mind full of ideas, and they poured it all onto this fragile sheet of plant fiber. And now 2 centuries later, you're holding it. How many people have read this? 10, 100. How many will read it after you? You don't know. You set it back on the shelf, gently, like tucking in a child. The sun is lower now. Shadows stretch across the marble floors. You finish your workday and gather your things. Apollonius is already waiting by the door. Demetrius is talking to one of the temple priests, an older man with a shaved head and worried eyes. You step outside. The air is cooler. The city is winding down. Merchants are packing up. The streets are less crowded. You're tired. Your hand hurts. Your back hurts. But it's a good kind of tired. The kind that comes from doing something that matters. You and Apollonius walk toward the main gate, and that's when you see them. A crowd, maybe 30 people, maybe more. They're gathered outside the Serapeum complex just beyond the gate. Ordinary people mostly, tradesmen, laborers, a few women, a few children, but they're not here to admire the architecture. They're holding signs, crude wooden boards with painted slogans. You can't read them all from here, but you catch fragments. No more idols. One God, one truth. Cleanse the land. They're chanting, not loud, not violent, just persistent. A low hum of voices, repeating the same phrases over and over. Christ is Lord. Down with the demons. Christ is Lord. Apollonius stops walking. You stop beside him. One of the guards at the gate, a Roman soldier, bored expression, hand resting on his sword, waves dismissively at the crowd. Ignore them, he says. They've been here all afternoon. They'll get tired and leave. But they don't look tired. They look patient. Apollonius's jaw tightens. Come on, he says quietly. Don't look at them. You follow him, but you can't help it. You glance back. One of the chanters, a man about your age, thin, sunburned, locks eyes with you. He doesn't look angry. He looks certain, like he knows something you don't. You turn away. Apollonius puts a hand on your shoulder. This will pass, he says. His voice is steady, but his hand is shaking. everything passes. You nod, you want to believe him. That night back in your rented room, you lie on your straw mattress and stare at the ceiling. Marcus is snoring again. Demetrius is praying quietly in the corner, lips moving, eyes closed. Apollonius is sitting by the window looking out at the dark street below. You close your eyes. You think about the scroll you copied today. Archimedes, the lever, the world. Give me a place to stand, and I will move the earth. You think about the crowd outside the gate. You think about the certainty in that man's eyes. And for the first time, just for a moment, you feel something you've never felt before in the library. Fear. But not yet, not tonight. Tonight, you're just tired. Tomorrow, you'll copy more scrolls. You'll eat more lentils. You'll do your job. Because that's what you do. That's what you've always done. And the library, the great, beautiful, impossible library, will still be there, won't it? It should have been there forever. That was the idea. 400,000 scrolls, 700 years of knowledge, the sum of everything humanity had learned about itself and the world. But 2 weeks later, none of that would matter, because the patient man outside the gate, he wasn't alone. And patience, as it turns out, can be just as dangerous as rage. But let's rewind for a second, because to understand what's about to happen, you need to understand where you are, not just physically, though Alexandria in 391 is a fascinating mess, but politically, religiously, culturally, you need to understand that this city is a powder keg, and someone's about to light the match. Alexandria isn't just a city, it's an experiment. A grand, chaotic, beautiful experiment in what happens when you throw every culture in the known world into one place and tell them to get along. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, Romans, Persians, Syrians, everyone's here. And everyone's brought their gods with them. Walk down any street and you'll see a temple to Isis next to a synagogue, next to a shrine to Apollo, next to a church with a cross painted on the door. It's religious diversity before anyone invented the term. It's coexistence, mostly, until it isn't. Because here's the thing about coexistence, it only works when everyone agrees it's worth trying. And in 391, not everyone agrees anymore. Let me give you the quick version. The political theology crash course. Pay attention, there won't be a test, but there will be blood. For centuries, the Roman Empire was officially pagan. Jupiter, Mars, Venus, the whole pantheon. The emperor was basically a god himself, standard imperial stuff. But then, in the year 312, Emperor Constantine had a vision, or a dream, or a really good marketing idea, depending on who you ask, and he converted to Christianity. Suddenly, the empire has a new god, not a new asterisk additional god, a new asterisk only asterisk god, big difference. First, it's gradual. Christians get more rights, pagan temples get less funding, but people still worship however they want. There's room for everyone until there isn't. In 380, Emperor Theodosius I makes Christianity the official state religion, not optional, not recommended, mandatory. And in 391, he goes further. He issues an edict, all pagan temples across the empire must close, immediately, no exceptions, sacrifice to the old gods, illegal. Worship at a pagan shrine, illegal, even entering a temple, you guessed it, illegal, and the penalty isn't a fine or a slap on the wrist, it's exile, confiscation of property, sometimes death. Welcome to the New World Order. Now here's where it gets messy. In Alexandria, the guy enforcing this edict is Patriarch Theophilus. Patriarch means he's the head of the Christian church in the city. Think of him as the local religious CEO, except with way more political power and a lot less interest in quarterly earnings. Theophilus is smart, charismatic, ruthless. He genuinely believes deep in his bones that paganism is demonic, that the old gods are literal demons, that every statue of Zeus is a doorway to hell, and he's been waiting his whole career for permission to do something about it. Now he has it. The emperor himself has given him a signed decree that says, essentially, burn it all down. And Theophilus is nothing if not obedient. So 3 religions, 1 city, let's break it down. The pagans, asterisk. They're the old god. The philosophers, the aristocrats, the people who have been worshipping Jupiter and Serapis and Athene for generations. They built this city. They funded the library. They believe in reason, debate, the pursuit of knowledge, but they're losing, slowly, steadily, they know it. The Christians, asterisk. They're the new power, the majority now or close to it. They've got imperial backing, legal authority, and the unshakable certainty that comes from believing you're on the right side of eternity. Some of them are kind, thoughtful, interested in coexistence. Some of them are not. The Jews asterisk. Caught in the middle, a minority but a significant one, educated, skilled. They've survived empires before, they'll survive this one. But survival means keeping your head down. Choosing your battles carefully. Miriam, the translator you work with, she's Jewish, and she's very, very good at reading the room. 1 week after you saw the crowd outside the library, the rumors start. You hear them in the market, in the bathhouse, whispered over bread and wine. They're going to close the Serapeum. No, they're just going to remove the statues. No, they're going to tear it down completely. Nobody knows for sure, but everyone's talking. Demetrius brings it up during lunch. I heard Theophilus himself is coming, he says, chewing on a piece of flatbread, to oversee the transition. Transition, Miriam repeats, voice flat. That's a polite word for it. What would you call it? Demetrius asks, not confrontational, genuinely curious. She looks at him for a long moment. Conquest, she says. Apollonius slams his cup down. This is a library, he says, louder than necessary. Not a temple. We don't worship here. We study. We preserve. They have no reason to touch us. The library is inside the Serapeum complex, you point out. I know where the library is, he snaps. Silence. Apollonius closes his eyes, takes a breath. I'm sorry, he says quietly. This is insane. We're talking about 400,000 manuscripts. Centuries of work. They wouldn't. He doesn't finish the sentence because he's starting to realize, yes, they would. 3 days later, you're summoned. Not officially, not publicly, just a quiet word from Apollonius as you're packing up for the evening. Tonight, he says, after dark, the east courtyard, tell no one. You nod, your heart is already beating faster. You arrive just after sunset. The courtyard is empty, or it looks empty, but as your eyes adjust, you see them. Shadows, maybe a dozen people seated on stone benches half hidden by the columns. Apollonius is there, Miriam, a few other scribes you recognize, and others you don't. An elderly priest with a shaved head and ink-stained fingers. A woman in a dark cloak, face half hidden. She's younger than you expected, maybe 35. She moves like someone used to being listened to. You'll learn her name later, Hypatia, philosopher, mathematician, daughter of Theon, the last librarian before the budget cuts. She's brilliant, she's brave. And in 24 years, she'll be murdered in the street. But tonight, she's just another voice in the dark. Apollonius speaks first. You all know why we're here, he says, quiet, steady. The Serapeum is going to be closed, maybe destroyed. We don't know when, could be days, could be weeks, but it's coming. And the library, someone asks. The library is part of the Serapeum, Hypatia says. Her voice is calm, clinical, like she's explaining a geometry proof. Legally, it falls under the same edict if the temple is destroyed. She doesn't finish, she doesn't need to. So what do? You ask. We save what we can, the old priest says. We move the most valuable manuscripts to safe locations, private homes, monasteries, anywhere they won't be found. Monasteries. Miriam raises an eyebrow. Christian monasteries. Some of the monks are sympathetic, Hypatia says. They value knowledge, even pagan knowledge. Not all of them are. Fanatics, Miriam finishes. Hypatia nods. So we sneak books out of a library that's under guard and hope we can hide them before an army of religious zealots burns the place down, you say. Correct, Apollonius says. Great plan, you mutter. You have a better one. He asks. You don't. Here's the problem. 400,000 manuscripts. Even if you worked every night for a year, you couldn't move them all. Not even close. So you have to choose. Which ones do you save? The unique copies, the ones that exist nowhere else in the world. Or the popular ones, Homer, Plato, that have dozens of copies scattered across the empire. Do you save the medical texts that could save lives? Or the philosophical texts that ask what life is worth saving in the first place? Do you save the scientific works, astronomy, mathematics, engineering? Or the literature, poetry, plays, history? Every choice means abandoning something irreplaceable. Every choice is a kind of murder. Hypatia pulls out a wax tablet. starts making a list. Archimedes, she says, everything we have, he's too important to lose. Euclid, someone adds, the elements asterisk. Galen's medical texts. Ptolemy's star charts. Sappho. What's left of her, anyway? The list grows, 20 titles, 50, 100, it's not enough. It's nowhere close to enough. But it's something. You start that night, you and 3 others, moving carefully, quietly. The guards patrol every 2 hours. You've timed them, you have a 20-minute window, you enter through the side door, the one that doesn't creak if you lift it slightly as you push. The library is dark, just moonlight through the high windows. You know where you're going. You've worked here for 3 years. You could navigate these shelves blind. You head to the philosophy section. Apollonius gave you a list, 10 scrolls, rare commentaries. One of a kind, you find the first one, carefully remove it from the shelf, roll it tighter, wrap it in linen cloth. It goes into a wooden crate, padded with straw, 1 down, 399,999 to go. You work in silence, every sound is too loud, the scrape of papyrus, the creak of the crate, your own breathing, you're terrified, not of getting caught exactly. The penalty for stealing library property is severe, but you're not stealing. You're saving, you're terrified of dropping something, tearing something, destroying in your haste the very thing you're trying to preserve. Your hands are shaking. You force them to steady. Scroll number 2, number 3. Hypatia appears beside you, silent as a ghost. She's carrying an armful of mathematical texts. How many? She whispers. 3 so far, you whisper back. She nods, adds hers to the crate. You keep working. By the time the guards return, you've saved 52 scrolls. 52 out of 400,000. You carry the crate through the dark streets, 4 of you taking turns. It's heavy. The wood digs into your shoulders. You don't stop until you reach a safe house. A private villa owned by a wealthy pagan sympathizer. He's risking everything by hiding these. He doesn't even look inside the crate, just nods, takes it, closes the door. You walk home in silence. You do it again the next night, and the next, and the next. Each time you save a few more, 60 scrolls, 70, 90, it's working slowly, painfully, inefficiently, but it's working. And then on the 5th night, Demetrius doesn't show up for work. At first you think he's sick or scared. He's the youngest of you. This kind of risk isn't for everyone. But then you find the letter. It's on his desk, folded, unsealed. It's addressed to all of you. You open it. Your hand starts shaking before you finish the first line. My brothers and sisters, I write this with a heavy heart, but a clear conscience. I know what you're doing. I've known for days, and I will not be part of it. These scrolls you're hiding are not treasures. They're poison. They teach false gods, false philosophies. They lead souls away from Christ toward damnation. I love you, all of you. You've been kind to me. You've taught me, treated me as family. But I love your souls more than I love your friendship. And so I've done what I must. I've told Patriarch Theophilus everything. Forgive me or don't, but know that I did this to save you. In Christ. Demetrius. You read it twice. 3 times it doesn't change. Miriam is standing behind you. She reads over your shoulder. Oh no, she whispers. Apollonius grabs the letter from your hands, reads it. His face goes white. When, he asks, when did he send this? You check the date at the bottom, yesterday. Apollonius closes his eyes. Then they know about the safe houses, the manuscripts, everything. What do we do? You ask. He doesn't answer, because there's nothing to do. You've been caught. The guards arrive an hour later, not Roman soldiers, church guards, big men with clubs and righteous expressions. They don't arrest anyone, not yet, they just watch. They station themselves at every entrance to the library, every exit. No more midnight rescues, no more smuggling scrolls, it's over. You stand in the courtyard with Apollonius and Miriam and a few others. You've managed to save, what? 1,000 scrolls, 1,500 maybe, out of 400,000, less than 1%. Apollonius is shaking, not with fear, with rage. We tried, Miriam says softly. We failed, he replies. She doesn't argue. That night you don't sleep. You lie on your mattress, staring at the ceiling, replaying Demetrius's words in your head. I did this to save you. He believed it, you know he did. He wasn't lying, wasn't being cruel. He genuinely thought he was doing the right thing. And maybe that's the worst part. Not that he betrayed you out of malice, but that he betrayed you out of love. The next morning, you return to the library. The guards let you in. You're allowed to work, for now, but the feeling has changed. The air is heavier, the silence deeper. Everyone knows something is coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You're at your desk, pretending to work, when Apollonius appears beside you. His face is ashen. They're coming, he whispers. Who? All of them, Theophilus, the mob, everyone. When? He swallows hard. Now. You stand, walk to the window, and you see them, hundreds of people, maybe thousands, pouring through the streets toward the Serapeum. They're carrying torches, axes, hammers, and at the front of the crowd, dressed in white and gold, holding a Bible above his head like a weapon, is Patriarch Theophilus himself. He's smiling. You watch them come, closer, closer. The chanting starts, low at first, then louder, Christ is Lord, Christ is Lord, Christ is Lord. And you realize, with a cold, sinking certainty, this isn't a protest, this is a purge. They didn't come to debate, didn't come to negotiate, they came to cleanse, and the greatest library in human history, it was first on the list. You've probably never watched a building die, not collapse in an earthquake, not crumble from age, not fade slowly into ruin over centuries. I mean, watched it be murdered, deliberately, joyfully. It's a specific kind of horror, and you're about to experience it firsthand. The sound reaches you first, not the chanting, you've heard that for days now. No, this is different, it's the sound of wood splintering, stone cracking, metal shrieking as it's wrenched from its moorings. They've reached the outer gates of the Serapeum complex, and they're not knocking politely. You're still at the window, can't look away. It's like watching a wave approach the shore. You know what's coming, you know you should run, but you just stand there. Apollonius grabs your shoulder. Inside, he says. Away from the windows, now. You follow him deeper into the library. 15, maybe 20 scribes are already there, huddled in the main reading hall. Some are praying, some are crying. One man is just sitting on the floor, staring at nothing, holding a scroll like it's a child. Miriam is there. Her face is pale but calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes from shock. How many exits? She asks Apollonius. 3, he says. Main gate already compromised. East door locked from outside. And the service, tunnel in the basement. Where does the tunnel lead? Storage cellars, then out to the street 2 blocks north. She nods. We should go now. And leave the books, someone says. A scribe named Marcus, older, devoted. He's worked here for 30 years. Miriam looks at him, doesn't answer. What can she say? The sounds are getting closer. Crashes, shouts, singing almost, hymns in Egyptian and Greek mixed together. Glory to the Most High, cast down the idols, purify the land. It would be beautiful if it wasn't terrifying. Someone pounds on the main library door. Heavy, rhythmic boom, boom, boom. The door is oak, thick, reinforced with iron bands. It's held for 300 years, it won't hold today. A voice from outside, loud, amplified by authority. Open the door. By order of Patriarch Theophilus and Emperor Theodosius, this temple is to be shut down and cleansed. Exit peacefully and you will not be harmed. Apollonius steps forward. This is not a temple, he shouts back. This is a library, a place of study. We are scholars, not priests. A pause, then laughter, multiple voices, not mocking, just amused, like he's told a joke they've heard before. A library inside a pagan temple is still pagan. The voice responds, come out now or be removed. Apollonius looks back at you, at Miriam, at the others. What do we do? Someone whispers. He opens his mouth, closes it. For the first time in the 3 years you've known him, Apollonius has no answer. Miriam steps up to the door. We have women here, she shouts. Elderly scholars, we're unarmed. Give us time to gather our things and we'll leave peacefully. Another pause, you hold your breath. You have 10 minutes, the voice says. Then we are coming in. 10 minutes, you look around the hall. Thousands of scrolls. Tens of thousands. stacked on shelves, piled on tables, stored in wooden cabinets. 400,000 in the building total. 10 minutes. What do you save? Chaos. Everyone moves at once, grabbing scrolls at random, stuffing them into bags, cloaks, anything that can carry. Take the unique copies. Apollonius shouts, nothing we have duplicates of. But nobody knows which are unique. There's no catalogue, no master list. Just your memory, your training, your gut instinct. You run to the mathematics section. Grab everything labeled Archimedes. 3 scrolls, 4, a fifth that might be Apollonius of Perga. You're not sure, the label is faded. Into your satchel, you run to the next shelf. Medicine, Galen's anatomical studies. You grab 2, your bag is full. You need something bigger. You spot a wooden crate, empty, used for transporting scrolls between sections. You dump your satchel into it. Keep grabbing. Hippocrates, Hierophilos, Erasistratus, names you've read 100 times, texts you've copied, texts you've memorized. Into the crate. Your hands are shaking so badly you almost drop one. Don't drop it, don't drop it, don't. You drop it, the scroll hits the floor, rolls, the papyrus splits slightly at the edge. You stare at it. That scroll is 600 years old, and you just damaged it more than 6 centuries of careful preservation ever did. You pick it up. Gently, add it to the crate. Keep moving. Miriam is at the philosophy section. She's moving faster than you, more efficiently, grabbing scrolls, checking labels, making instant decisions. Save, discard. Save, discard, cold, calculated. You've never respected her more. Miriam, you call. How much time? She doesn't have a watch. Nobody does. Sundials don't work indoors. Maybe 5 minutes, she says. Maybe less. Hurry. You hurry. The pounding on the door resumes. Louder now, not fists. Something heavy. A battering ram maybe, or just a big piece of timber. Boom, the door shudders. Boom, dust falls from the ceiling. Boom, a crack appears in the wood. Thin, spiderwebbing. Time's up. Someone screams. Apollonius runs to the center of the hall. Basement. He shouts, everyone now take what you can carry. You grab your crate. It's heavy. 20, maybe 30 scrolls inside. You can barely lift it. You lift it anyway. You're moving toward the back staircase when the door explodes inward. Not metaphorically, it actually explodes, splinters everywhere. The iron bands rip free and clatter to the floor, and they pour in, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, men in workers' tunics, women in headscarves, a few monks in robes, even some children wide-eyed and excited like this is a festival. They're holding torches, axes, hammers, clubs, and they're screaming, not in anger, in joy. Glory to God, death to the demons. Cleanse the temple. One of them, a man about your age, muscular, sunburned, spots a statue of Athene in the corner. Bronze, 3 feet tall, beautiful. He walks up to it calmly, raises his hammer, brings it down on her face. The nose breaks off, clatters to the floor. He hits her again, again. Again until she's unrecognizable. Then he turns, sees the shelves, sees the scrolls, and smiles. Run, Apollonius screams. You run. The crate bangs against your legs. You're going to bruise. You don't care. Behind you, the sound of tearing papyrus. Someone is ripping scrolls apart, just tearing them in half. Laughing, look how easily the devil's lies crumble. A voice shouts, more laughter. You reach the staircase. Start down. The basement is dark. No windows, just a few oil lamps. You're halfway down when you hear the scream. You turn. One of the scribes, a young woman named Theodora, didn't make it. She tripped, dropped her scrolls, and now 3 people are standing over her, not hurting her, just blocking her. Leave the demon books, one of them says, and you can go. She looks down at the scrolls scattered around her feet, looks up at them, back down. She reaches for a scroll. They kick it away. I said leave them. These are just books, she whispers. Just words, please. Words are never just words, the man says, especially the devil's. He picks up a scroll. The firelight from his torch catches the edge, and he holds the scroll over the flame. It catches instantly. Papyrus burns beautifully, bright, fast. Theodora screams, but not in pain, in grief. You want to go back, want to help her, but Apollonius pulls you forward. She'll be fine. They won't hurt her. They want the books, not us. You're not sure he believes that. You're not sure you do either, but you keep moving. The basement is packed, all the scribes who made it. Maybe 12 of you out of 20. You set down your crate. Your arms are screaming. Apollonius is counting heads. His lips move silently. He stops, closes his eyes. 8 didn't make it, he says quietly. Miriam touches his arm. They're alive. They got out the main door. I saw them. Did you see what they were carrying? She doesn't answer. They left empty-handed, saved themselves, left the books. You don't blame them, but Apollonius does. Above you, the noise is getting worse. Footsteps, dozens of them, running, stomping, crashes as shelves are toppled, and then a smell, smoke. Oh no, someone whispers. Apollonius runs to the tunnel entrance. It's a narrow passage, brick-lined, barely tall enough to stand in. Go, he says, single file, quick and quiet. Leave the crates, if you have to. Leave the, Marcus starts. We save ourselves first, Apollonius interrupts. Then we save what we can carry, move. You pick up your crate again. Someone, a scribe named Lucius, grabs your arm. That's too heavy, you'll never make it. Watch me. You step into the tunnel. It's dark, suffocating. The ceiling is so low you have to hunch. The crate keeps banging against the walls. The scrolls inside rattle. Please don't tear, please don't tear. You're maybe 50 feet in when you hear the collapse. Not close, but not far either. Part of the building above is coming down. The tunnel shakes. Dust rains from the ceiling. Someone behind you starts praying. You keep walking. The tunnel feels endless, but finally, you see light ahead. Not daylight, firelight. You emerge into a storage cellar. Stone walls, low ceiling, rows of empty amphorae that once held wine. There's a wooden ladder leading up to a trapdoor. Apollonius is already there, pushing it open. One at a time, he says. Slowly, we don't know who's up there. One by one, you climb out. You emerge in an alley 2 blocks north of the library. It's early evening now. The sun is setting, and the sky is orange, not from the sunset, from the fire. You set down your crate. Your hands are bleeding, splinters. You didn't even notice. Miriam is next to you. She's carrying a bag, smaller than your crate but still heavy. What did you get? You ask. She doesn't look at you, just stares at the smoke rising over the rooftops. I don't know, she says. I just grabbed. I don't even know what I saved. You open your crate, carefully pull out the first scroll, unroll it slightly. It's a medical text. Hierophilos, on the circulatory system. Irreplaceable, you saved it. You pull out the next one, Archimedes, on floating bodies. You saved it too. You pull out another. The label is smudged. Unreadable, you unroll it. It's a play. You don't recognize the author. But it's old. The papyrus is brown, fragile. You saved it. You don't know what it is, but you saved it. You look up at the smoke, and you think about the ones you didn't save. You spend the night on a rooftop. Apollonius knows a man who owns a building near the harbor. Sympathetic, pagan, he lets you hide there. From the roof, you can see the whole city. And you can see the fire. It's massive. The entire Serapeum complex is burning. The temple, the gardens, the colonnades, and the library. The flames are taller than the building itself, bright enough to read by even from a quarter-mile away. You watch a column collapse. It falls in slow motion, or maybe that's just your perception, your brain trying to process what it's seeing. It crashes into the east wing. That's where you worked. Your desk, your stool, your rack of pens, gone. Someone is sitting next to you. It's Marcus, the old scribe. He's not crying. He's past that. He's just watching. 30 years, he says. I gave 30 years to that place. You don't know what to say. I copied 600 manuscripts in 30 years, he continues. 600. I was proud of that. Thought I'd made a difference. He laughs, a hollow, broken sound. 600 out of 400,000. What's that? A fraction of a percent. You made a difference, you say. Did I? He points at the fire. There goes everything I ever copied, everything I ever cared about, burning, and you know what the worst part is. You shake your head. The people who lit that fire, they're singing right now, celebrating. They think they're doing something holy. He stands, walks away. You don't follow. The fire burns for 3 days, 3 days, even after the structure collapses, even after the wood is gone. The papyrus keeps burning. Thousands and thousands of scrolls, each one feeding the flames. The smoke cloud is visible from across the city, across the bay. Sailors 20 miles out at sea report seeing it. On the second day, Patriarch Theophilus gives a sermon in the main square. You're not there, but you hear about it. He calls the fire God's judgment on the works of demons. He says the library was a haven for lies and blasphemy. He says Alexandria is now purified. The crowd cheers. On the third day, the fire finally dies. You and Apollonius and a few others sneak back to see what's left. The answer is not much. The outer walls are still standing, blackened, cracked, but standing. Everything inside is gone. The shelves, the desks, the scrolls, all of it, ash. You walk through what used to be the main reading hall. Your feet crunch on broken pottery, charred wood, and something else. You look down, it's a piece of papyrus. Somehow unburned, maybe a foot long, the edges are singed but the center is intact. You pick it up, it's Greek, a fragment of a poem. You recognize the meter, Sapphic verse, you read the lines. And I long, and I seek after. That's all, the rest is burned away. You don't know what she longed for, you'll never know. You fold the fragment carefully, put it in your pocket. It's the only thing you'll take from the ruins. That night you return to the rooftop. You lay out your scrolls, the ones you saved from your crate, 27 of them. You count twice to be sure, 27. You saved 27 scrolls. Miriam saved 19. Apollonius saved 31. Others saved more, some saved less. Altogether, between all of you, you saved maybe 2,000 scrolls. 2,000 out of 400,000, half of 1%, the greatest library in human history, and you saved half of 1%. Apollonius is sitting against the wall. He hasn't spoken in hours. Finally, he looks up. What do we do now? He asks, not to anyone in particular, just to the universe. Miriam answers. We survive, she says. We keep the ones we saved safe. We copy them, we spread them, we make sure they don't die with us. And then what? Marcus asks. We live in hiding, pretending everything's fine, watching the world forget. Yes, she says simply, if that's what it takes. Apollonius closes his eyes. 700 years, he whispers, 700 years of knowledge gone in 3 days. Nobody responds. What can you say? He's right. You lie down on the roof. The stone is still warm from the sun. Above you the stars are coming out. The same stars Ptolemy mapped. The same stars Aristarchus studied. The same stars Eratosthenes used to calculate the size of the earth. The stars are still there, but the books that explain them, ash. You close your eyes, and for the first time since the fire started, you let yourself cry. But the story doesn't end with the fire, because buildings can burn, paper can burn, but ideas, those are harder to kill, and the people who carry them, the scribes, the scholars, the stubborn ones who refuse to let knowledge die, they're harder to kill too. You don't know it yet, but you're about to become a refugee, a keeper of forbidden knowledge. A living library in a world that wants to burn books. And the life you had, the ordinary, predictable, safe life of a scribe in the greatest city in the world, that's over. What comes next is survival. And survival, you're about to learn, is so much harder than dying. So the library's gone, your job's gone, your purpose, the thing you've built your entire adult life around, gone. Congratulations, you're now a 25-year-old unemployed scribe in a city that just decided knowledge is dangerous. What do? Well, you survive, or you try to anyway. 6 months later, let me paint you a picture. You're living in a different room now, smaller, damper, in a part of the city where the streets don't have names, just nicknames. Beggar's Turn, the Wet Stones, Don't Go There After Dark Alley. You share this room with 2 other people, not scribes. You don't know what they do, you don't ask. They don't ask about you. That's the rule now, don't ask, don't tell. Your rent is 5 drachmae a month. Sounds cheap. It's not. You're barely making it. Because here's the thing, there's no library anymore. No institution paying you a steady wage to copy books. The Mausian is ash. The Serapeum is rubble. The scrolls are smoke. And the few scholars who survived, they scattered. Some left the city entirely. Some converted to Christianity and got jobs in the new church scriptoriums, copying Psalms instead of Plato, but hey, it pays. And some, like you, went underground. You work in the black market now, not for drugs or stolen goods, for books. There are still people in Alexandria who want the old texts, wealthy pagans, nostalgic aristocrats, A few curious Christians who don't think reading Aristotle will damn their souls. They pay not much, but enough. You copy manuscripts in secret, in basements, in back rooms of taverns. In private homes where the shutters stay closed even in daylight. You copy whatever someone will pay for. Medical texts mostly, those sell well. Turns out even Christians get sick, and Galen's anatomy guides don't care what god you pray to. Philosophical works sometimes. Plato's Republic Epictetus, safe stuff. Nothing too pagan, nothing that'll get you reported. You charge 10 drachmae per scroll. Takes you 3 days to copy one, working at night by candlelight because you can't afford oil lamps anymore. 10 drachmae, 3 days, do the math. You're eating 1 meal a day, bread mostly, onions if you're lucky, lentils if you've had a good week. You've lost weight, your clothes hang loose, your hands shake when you write, not from fear, though there's plenty of that, from hunger. This is your life now. Let me tell you about fear, not the sharp, sudden kind, like when the mob broke down the library doors. That's panic, that's adrenaline. No, this is different. This is the slow, constant kind. The kind that lives in your chest like a stone. The kind that wakes you up at 3 a.m. and whispers, what if they find you? What if someone talks? What if today is the day? Because it's illegal now, what you're doing. Possessing pagan texts without church approval. Illegal copying them, very illegal distributing them. That'll get you exiled or worse. So you're careful, you don't use your real name. You don't meet clients in the same place twice. You don't carry scrolls through the streets unless they're wrapped in cloth and hidden in a grain sack. You've become a criminal, not because you stole, not because you hurt anyone, because you remember. But you're not alone. There are others. A network, quiet, invisible, careful. Apollonius is still here. He's older now. Grayer, he doesn't talk as much, but he's still copying, still preserving. Miriam too, she's translating Hebrew texts for the Jewish quarter. Safer work. The Jews have been surviving persecution for centuries. They know how to keep their heads down. And Hypatia, you've seen her a few times, not often. She's too visible, too important. She still teaches mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, but only to private students now. The wealthy ones, the ones with protection. She's walking a tightrope. Everyone knows it, but she refuses to stop. There are others too. Maybe a dozen in total. Former scribes, scholars, priests of the old gods who haven't converted yet. You meet once a month, always at night, always in a different location. You share what you've saved, what you've copied, what you've heard. It's not much, but it's something. Tonight, you're meeting in a basement beneath a pottery shop. The entrance is through a trapdoor hidden under a pile of broken amphorae. You have to move them carefully, quietly, one by one. You climb down a wooden ladder. The air below is cool, damp, smells like clay and old wine. There are 11 people already there when you arrive. Apollonius, Miriam, Hypatia, and others. A former priest named Thaddeus. A physician named Galen, not the asterisk Galen, obviously just named after him. A young woman named Chloe who saved a collection of poetry scrolls and now guards them like a mother guards her children. You nod to each of them, they nod back. No one smiles much anymore. Apollonius stands. We've lost another one, he says. Silence. Who? Miriam asks. Photios. He was copying Plotinus last month. Someone reported him. Church guards raided his home 2 days ago. Is he, you start, alive? Apollonius says. They gave him a choice. Convert and renounce his work or leave the city. He converted. Someone mutters a curse. Don't judge him, Miriam says sharply. He has a family, children. What would you have done? No one answers. What would asterisk you have done? You don't know. Hypatia speaks. We need to talk about what we're going to do long term, she says. Her voice is calm, measured, like she's solving a geometry problem. We've saved approximately 2,000 manuscripts, maybe a few hundred more scattered in private collections, but we can't keep them here, not safely. Where else would we keep them? Thaddeus asks. Anywhere but here, she replies. Athens, Constantinople, even Persia if necessary, somewhere the church's reach is weaker. You're talking about leaving, Apollonius says. Not a question, a statement. I'm talking about survival, Hypatia says, for the texts and for us. I'm not leaving, he says, flat, final. Then you'll die here. He looks at her, doesn't blink. Maybe, but I'll die in the city I love, doing the work I was meant to do. Hypatia doesn't argue, she just nods, like she expected that answer. Like she respects it, even if she disagrees. The meeting continues. Logistics, who has what, who needs what, who's been contacted by potential buyers. It's boring in a way, mundane, but there's a kind of beauty in it too, because here you are, a dozen people in a basement, risking everything for what? For books, for the idea that knowledge matters, that the past is worth preserving, that humanity deserves to remember. It's insane, really, and yet. After the meeting, Hypatia pulls you aside. Walk with me, she says. You follow her up the ladder, out into the street. It's late, past midnight. The city is quiet except for the distant sound of dogs barking and the occasional drunk stumbling home. You walk in silence for a while. Finally, she stops. You're in a small square. There's a fountain in the center, dry now, hasn't worked in years, and a few stone benches. She sits. You sit beside her. I want to teach you something, she says. You blink. Now. Why not? She pulls out a stick of charcoal from her cloak, kneels down on the paving stones, and starts drawing. A triangle, simple, 3 lines. Do you know the Pythagorean theorem? She asks. Of course, you say, you're a scribe, you've copied Euclid. Tell me. In a right triangle, the square of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides. She nods. Correct, now watch. She draws a square on each side of the triangle, labels them. A B, C, then she starts dividing them, rearranging, proving. Her voice is soft, patient. She's not lecturing, she's sharing. And for a moment, just a moment, you forget where you are, you forget the fear, the hunger, the loss. You're just a student again, learning, thinking. It's the closest you've felt to happy in 6 months. When she finishes, she sits back. Why did you show me this? You ask. She's quiet for a moment. Because I needed to remember why this matters, she says. The library burned, the scrolls are gone, but the idea, the theorem, the proof, the truth of it, that's still here. She taps her head. They can burn buildings, they can burn paper, but they can't burn this, not unless we let them. You nod. The texts we saved, she continues. They're important, but they're just containers. The real knowledge is in here. She taps your head now, and here. She touches your chest. You understand. You think you do. You walk back in silence. At the corner where you part ways, she stops. I'm leaving soon, she says. Your heart sinks. Where? I don't know yet. Somewhere safer. I'm taking about 300 manuscripts with me. The mathematical ones, mostly. I'll find a place to continue teaching. When? A few weeks, maybe less. You don't know what to say. Will you come with me? She asks. The question catches you off guard. I don't know. She nods. Think about it, but don't take too long. This city is getting more dangerous every day. She walks away. You stand there, watching her disappear into the shadows. That was 3 weeks ago. You decided to stay, for now. There's still work to do, still scrolls to copy. Still people who need them. And maybe you're like Apollonius, too stubborn to leave, too attached to this broken city. But tonight, something happens. You're in your rented room, working by candlelight, copying a medical text for a physician who's paying you 12 drachmae good money. There's a knock at the door. Quiet, urgent, you freeze. Nobody knocks at this hour. Nobody who means well anyway. You blow out the candle. Darkness. Another knock. Who is it? You whisper. It's Marcus. Marcus, the old scribe, one of the network. You open the door. He's pale, out of breath. They found us, he says. Who found what? You ask, but you already know. Quintus, he says. You remember him from the meetings. You nod. Quiet guy, mid-40s, former philosophy teacher. He confessed, Marcus says. Went to the church, told them everything. The meetings, the manuscripts, the locations. Your blood goes cold. When? Yesterday. The guards have already raided 3 safe houses, confiscated everything. How many scrolls? Marcus's face twists. 300, maybe more. 300 out of the 2,000 you saved, gone. You sit down, your legs won't hold you. Why, you ask, why would he do that? Marcus hands you a piece of papyrus, crumpled, stained. He left this. You read it by the dim moonlight from the window. I can no longer live with the weight of sin. I have helped preserve the works of the devil. I have enabled blasphemy. I thought I was serving knowledge, but I was serving damnation. I have confessed to the church and surrendered all manuscripts in my care. I urge you all to do the same. Save your souls while you still can. May God forgive us. It's signed, dated, Quintus. You crumple the letter, throw it across the room. That's the second time, you say, voice shaking. The second time someone we trusted, someone we worked with betrayed us because they thought they were saving us. I know, Marcus says. Do you? You stand. You're angry now, angrier than you've been since the fire. Demetrius burned the library because he loved us. Quintus just destroyed 300 irreplaceable texts because he loved his soul more than the truth. And we're supposed to just, what? Understand, forgive. Marcus doesn't answer because there is no answer. He leaves. You sit in the dark. The candle is still out. You don't relight it. You just sit. And you think, 400,000 scrolls in the library. You saved 2,000. Now it's 1,700. Every day you lose more, to fire, to confiscation, to betrayal, to time. How long can you keep this up? How long before there's nothing left to save? You don't sleep that night. Just lie on your thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time since the fire, you think, maybe I should stop. Maybe you should convert, get a normal job, copy psalms for the church, forget the old world, embrace the new. It would be easier, safer, smarter even. But then you think about Hypatia drawing triangles in the dirt at midnight. About Apollonius refusing to leave the city he loves. About the fragment of Sappho in your pocket. And I long and I seek after. And you realize you can't stop. Not because you're brave, because you're too stubborn to quit. The next day you go looking for Hypatia. You need to talk to her, need to tell her you've decided, you're leaving, you'll go with her, wherever she's going, because this city is dying, and if you stay, you'll die with it. You find her usual teaching spot, a garden courtyard in the wealthy district, private, quiet, but she's not there. You ask around, carefully. One of her students, a young man in expensive robes, tells you she's at the Agora, the marketplace. Strange. She doesn't usually go there, too public, but you head that way. The Agora is crowded. Merchants, shoppers, beggars, the usual chaos. You push through looking for her, and then you see him, a man you recognize, one of the church officials. He's talking to a group of monks, rough-looking men, the kind Theophilus uses for the dirty work. They're holding a piece of papyrus, a list of names. You can't see it clearly, but you see the gestures, the pointing, the nodding, and you hear one word, Hypatia. Your stomach drops. You want to run to her, warn her, but you don't know where she is. You spend the next 3 hours searching, asking every place she might be. Nothing. By evening, you give up, head home. Maybe you're paranoid, maybe it's nothing, maybe. You turn the corner to your street, and you see Apollonius. He's standing outside your building, waiting. His face tells you everything. No, you say. He doesn't speak. No, Apollonius, no. He reaches out, puts a hand on your shoulder. I'm sorry, he whispers. What happened? He takes a breath. She was attacked this afternoon on her way home from a lecture. Is she? She's alive, he says quickly. Hurt, but alive. Some of her students got her to safety. Relief floods through you, but it's short-lived, because Apollonius's expression doesn't change. They're not going to stop, he says. Cyril, the new patriarch, he's worse than Theophilus ever was. He's declared her a threat, a corrupting influence. She's a mathematician, you say. She teaches geometry. How is that a threat? Because she refuses to convert. Because people listen to her. Because she's a woman who thinks. He pauses. They're going to kill her, he says. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. You stand there. The world feels like it's tilting. We have to get her out, you say. Tonight, we'll take her to the harbor, put her on a ship. Anywhere, just away from here. I already tried, Apollonius says. She refused. What? She says if she runs, philosophy dies in Alexandria. She won't do it. Then she's insane. Maybe. He looks at you, but you should go, he says. Take the manuscripts we have left, get on a ship. Athens, Constantinople, wherever. And leave her. Yes, I can't. You can, he says, and you will, because someone has to survive this. Someone has to make sure the scrolls we saved actually make it somewhere safe. He presses a small leather pouch into your hands. 30 scrolls, the most important ones, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, get them out of this city. You stare at the pouch, Apollonius. Go, he says. There's a ship leaving for Athens tomorrow at dawn. I've already paid for your passage. I don't. Go. You go not because you want to, because he's right. And because you're terrified, you spend the night packing. The 30 scrolls, a change of clothes, the fragment of Sappho, that's it. That's all you own now. At dawn, you're at the harbor. The ship is small, a merchant vessel. Carries grain and olive oil and passengers who don't ask questions. You're about to board. And that's when you see him, a street crier shouting news. You can't hear the words, but you see the crowd gathering. You walk closer, and you hear it. Hypatia the philosopher has been killed, struck down by the faithful servants of God. Her body burned. The city is cleansed. The world stops. You can't breathe, can't think, can't. Killed. Not attacked, not injured, killed. The man keeps shouting. Patriarch Cyril declares a day of celebration. The demons have been cast out. You stand there, frozen. The leather pouch feels impossibly heavy in your hands. 30 scrolls, that's what you saved. And Hypatia, brilliant, stubborn, beautiful Hypatia, is dead. Someone bumps into you, you boarding or not. The sailor asks, you look at the ship, you look back at the city. At Alexandria, the city that built the greatest library in the world, and burned it, the city that produced the greatest minds in history, and murdered them, you board the ship, not because you want to, because someone has to survive, someone has to carry the scrolls, someone has to remember. As the ship pulls away from the dock, you stand at the rail and watch Alexandria shrink behind you, the city that gave you everything, and took it all away. You don't know it yet, but you'll never see it again. And the 30 scrolls in your bag, they'll survive. They'll travel further than you can imagine. But the cost was everyone you loved. And you're about to learn what that weight feels like every single day for the rest of your life. The ship rocks beneath you. The Mediterranean is calm today, almost mocking in its peacefulness. You're standing at the rail, watching Alexandria disappear into the haze. The city is just a smudge on the horizon now. Brown stone, white smoke, gone, and all you can think about is the street crier's voice. Hypatia the philosopher has been killed. Killed, not died, not passed away, not fell ill, killed. You need to understand what happened. You need to know, not because it'll change anything. She's dead, that's not reversible, but because she deserves to be remembered correctly. Not as the church will remember her, as a heretic, a demon, a corrupting witch, but as she was. So let me tell you about Hypatia from the beginning. She was born around 360 AD in Alexandria. Daughter of Theon of Alexandria, a mathematician, astronomer, and one of the last scholars officially attached to the Mausian before the budget cuts made the position meaningless. Theon was brilliant, but he knew his daughter was more brilliant, so he taught her everything he knew: mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, music, athletics. Even he believed in the Greek ideal of a sound mind in a sound body. By the time she was 20, Hypatia could solve problems most scholars twice her age couldn't touch. By 30, she was teaching, not hiding in a basement, not whispering in secret, teaching publicly, in lecture halls, in gardens, anywhere people would listen, and people did listen: Christians, pagans, Jews, rich, poor, men, women. Because she had something rare, the ability to make the abstract beautiful. She could take a geometric proof, dry, technical, intimidating, and turn it into poetry. She'd draw a circle in the sand and say, "This is the shape of perfection. Every point on its edge is exactly the same distance from the center. Perfectly equal, perfectly fair, if only humans could be circles." And people would get it. She never married. This scandalized people, obviously. A woman in her 30s, still single, unthinkable. But Hypatia didn't care about scandal. When suitors proposed, and they did constantly because she was brilliant and beautiful and wealthy, she'd politely decline. Once, according to legend, a particularly persistent student confessed his love for her. She handed him a menstrual rack. This is what you're in love with, she said. The body, not the mind. If that's what you want, you're in the wrong classroom. Subtle she was not, but she made her point. She had married philosophy, that was enough. Now let's skip ahead. It's the year 415 AD, 24 years after the library burned. Hypatia is in her 50s now, still teaching, still drawing circles in the sand, but the world around her has changed. Alexandria is a Christian city now, thoroughly, officially. There are still pagan holdouts, Hypatia among them, but they're a minority, shrinking every year. And the man running the church in Alexandria is no longer Theophilus. He died in 412. His nephew, Cyril, took over, and Cyril makes his uncle look moderate. Here's the political situation. You've got two powerful men in the city, and they hate each other. Orsts *, the Roman prefect. The governor represents imperial authority. He's Christian, but he's practical. He values order, law, education. He respects Hypatia, consults her on matters of philosophy and even politics. Cyril *, the patriarch, head of the church, represents religious authority. He's not practical, he's ideological, absolutely certain that he's doing God's work. And he hates that Orestes listens to a pagan woman. These two men are locked in a power struggle, and Hypatia, without meaning to, without wanting to, becomes the symbol of that struggle. To Orestes, she represents wisdom, reason, the best of the classical tradition. To Cyril, she represents everything that needs to be destroyed. Cyril starts a campaign, not openly. He's too smart for that. He doesn't stand up in church and say, "Kill Hypatia." That would be too obvious, too legally problematic. Instead, he plants seeds. In sermons, he talks about certain philosophers who lead Christians astray. He warns about pagan sorcery disguised as learning. He mentions casually, almost as an aside, that Orestes is being bewitched by a woman who consorts with demons. He never names her. He doesn't have to. Everyone knows who he means. The rumors start. You hear them in the markets, in the taverns. Hypatia uses magic to control Orestes. She performs pagan rituals at night. She's the reason there was a famine last year. There wasn't a famine, but facts don't matter when you're looking for a scapegoat. She prevents Christians from converting, traps their souls. None of it is true, but truth doesn't matter when fear is louder. And then in early March 415, something happens. There's a riot between Christians and Jews, violence in the streets, people die. Orestes tries to restore order, arrests some of the Christian rioters. Cyril is furious. How dare the governor arrest Christians for defending the faith? He sends a group of monks, his personal enforcers, basically to talk to Orestes. The conversation goes badly. One of the monks throws a rock, hits Orestes in the head, blood everywhere. The monk is arrested, executed. Cyril declares him a martyr. And the city is now a bomb, waiting for a spark. Hypatia knows she's in danger. People tell her, her students, Orestes himself. Leave, they say, get on a ship, go to Athens, Constantinople, anywhere. She refuses. You already know this. Apollonius told you, but let me tell you what she said. Her exact words, according to one of her students who survived. If I leave, I admit that philosophy has no place in this city. I admit that ignorance wins. I will not do that. I will not give them that victory. Stubborn, brave, stupid, maybe, but that was Hypatia. March 415, a day like any other. Hypatia finishes a lecture in the morning, astronomy. She's been teaching a group of students, mixed Christians and pagans, about lunar cycles, how to predict eclipses using mathematics. Beautiful, practical stuff. No demons, no magic, just math. The lecture ends, she says goodbye to her students, and she gets into her chariot. Yes, a chariot, not a carriage, an actual two-wheeled chariot pulled by a horse. She's old-fashioned that way, likes the classical style. She's heading home, alone. That's her first mistake. Or maybe not a mistake. Maybe she just refused to live in fear. Either way, she's alone. The street is crowded. Midday, the usual chaos of Alexandria. She doesn't notice the men until they're surrounding her. There are dozens of them, maybe 50, maybe more, monks, members of a group called the Parabolani *. Officially, they're a charitable order. They care for the sick. Unofficially, they're Cyril's thugs. Their leader is a man named Peter. Peter the Reader, that's his title in the church. He reads scripture aloud during services. Mild job description for a guy about to commit murder. They block the street, stop her chariot. She's not stupid. She knows what this is. She tries to turn the horse, but there are too many of them. They grab the reins. One of them, Peter himself, probably grabs her by the arm, pulls her down. She doesn't scream, doesn't beg. According to the one eyewitness account that survived, a man watching from a window who was too terrified to intervene, she just looked at them and said, "Why?" That's all. Why? No one answered. They drag her, not far, just a few streets, to a church. Ironic, right? They're about to murder someone and they choose a church as the venue. The church is called Caesarium. Used to be a pagan temple, actually, dedicated to the Roman emperors, but it was converted. Crosses painted over the imperial eagles. They drag her inside. And this is where I need to warn you. What happens next is brutal. I'm not going to make it graphic. This isn't horror entertainment. This is history, but you need to know what happened. You need to know what humans are capable of when they're certain they're right. They strip her not for any reason, just to humiliate her, to degrade her. Then they kill her. The historical accounts say they used ostraka, pieces of broken pottery, roof tiles specifically. Essentially, they beat her to death with sharp fragments of ceramic. Why pottery and not swords or knives? Because there's a legal loophole. Church law forbids clergy from shedding blood. But if you kill someone with blunt objects or pottery, technically, you're not shedding blood with a blade. Legal technicality, that's what mattered to them. Not the woman, not the mind, not the decades of teaching and learning and beauty, just the technicality. She dies, obviously, you can't survive that. They dismember her body, drag the pieces through the streets, and then they burn her outside the city walls, reduce her to ash, just like the library. No one is arrested, no one is even questioned. Arrestees, the governor, remember, the guy with actual legal authority, investigates, but he's got no power, not really. Cyril controls the mob. The mob controls the streets. Orestes writes to the emperor in Constantinople. Begs for justice, the emperor writes back, handle it locally. Translation, I don't want to get involved. So nothing happens. Peter the reader, he's never punished, never even officially accused. Some sources say he was quietly reassigned to a church in the countryside, a promotion basically, and Cyril continues as patriarch for another 28 years, dies peacefully in his bed, and in the centuries that follow, the church declares him a saint, Saint Cyril of Alexandria. That's his official title. The man who ordered, or at minimum, enabled, the murder of one of history's greatest mathematicians. A saint. Let that sit with you for a moment. I'll wait. Now back to you. You're still on the ship, still staring at the horizon. You didn't witness any of that. You only heard the crier's announcement, but you know Hypatia, knew her, past tense now, and you know what this means. It means philosophy is dead in Alexandria. Not the word, the idea that you can ask questions, challenge authority, seek truth for its own sake, that's dead. Because if they'll kill Hypatia, famous, connected, protected by the governor himself, they'll kill anyone, and they have. The last pagan priests, converted or exiled, the last scholars, scattered. Apollonius, you don't know if he's even still alive. Miriam, gone, fled to Jerusalem weeks ago, you are alone. A 26-year-old scribe carrying 30 scrolls that the world wants to burn. The ship's captain approaches you all right? He asks, you don't answer. First time leaving Alexandria. He presses, yes. Tough city to leave, beautiful place. It was, you say. He doesn't catch the past tense, walks away. You go below deck, to the tiny cabin you've rented. It's barely big enough to lie down in, smells like salt and old fish. You set down the leather bag, the 30 scrolls, you open it, pull them out one by one, Archimedes on floating bodies. You copied this yourself years ago. Euclid, Elements, Book 7, the one on number theory. Galen, on the usefulness of the parts of the body. A medical text that saved countless lives. Ptolemy, Almagest, star charts, predictions. And others, philosophy, history, poetry, 30 scrolls, 30 pieces of a civilization. That's what you have. That's what's left. You should feel proud. You saved these, you risked your life, you sacrificed everything, but you don't feel proud, you feel empty. Because what did you lose to save them? Your job, your home, your city, your friends, Hypatia. Was it worth it? You don't know, you won't know for a long time, maybe never. That night you can't sleep. The ship rocks, the wood creaks. You lie in the dark and you think about her, not the murder. You can't think about that, not yet. It's too big, too horrible. You think about the last time you saw her, drawing a triangle in the dirt, explaining Pythagoras, her voice calm, patient. They can burn buildings, they can burn paper, but they can't burn this. She tapped your head, not unless we let them. You reach up, touch your own head, the same spot. And you realize something. She was right. They burned the library, they killed her, they destroyed everything physical, but the theorem is still true. The square of the hypotenuse still equals the sum of the squares of the other two sides. That hasn't changed. Can't change. Cyril can't make it untrue. Peter the reader can't beat it to death with pottery shards. It's true, and it will stay true forever. That thought, that small, stubborn thought, is the only thing that keeps you from throwing the scrolls overboard and jumping in after them. Because what's the point? The library is gone. Hypatia is dead. The world is getting darker, not lighter. Why keep fighting? But then you think, because the truth is still true, and someone has to remember that. Voyage to Athens takes 2 weeks. 2 weeks of nothing but ocean and sky and the 30 scrolls. You spend the time reading them, memorizing them, because Hypatia was right about something else. The scrolls are just containers, paper and ink, fragile, but if you can get the knowledge into your head, into enough heads, it becomes harder to kill. Not impossible, obviously. They killed Hypatia and she carried more knowledge than any scroll, but harder, so you read, you memorize. Euclid's fifth postulate. Archimedes' principle, Galen's observations on the circulatory system. You fill your head with them until the words are part of you. You arrive in Athens on a cloudy morning. The city is smaller than you expected, quieter. It's not the Athens of Plato and Aristotle. That was 800 years ago. This is a provincial town in a Christian empire, but the academy is still here. Plato's academy, founded in 387 BC, still operating barely. You make your way there. It's not impressive, just a few buildings, a courtyard, some olive trees. An old man is sweeping the steps. You approach him. I'm looking for the director, you say. He looks you up and down. You're dirty, unshaven. You smell like 2 weeks on a ship. Why? He asks. You hold up the leather bag. I have something for him. The director's name is Plutarch, not asterisk the asterisk Plutarch. Different guy, but named after him. He's in his 60s, thin, tired-looking. You're shown into his office. It's lined with shelves, scrolls everywhere, but not as many as the library had. Nowhere close. He gestures for you to sit. You came from Alexandria, he asks. Yes. Dangerous journey these days. I know. What brings you here? You set the bag on his desk, open it, start pulling out scrolls. His eyes widen. You keep pulling them out, one after another. 30 scrolls piled on his desk. He picks one up, carefully, unrolls it slightly, reads the first few lines. His hands start shaking. Where did you get these? He whispers. I saved them from the library before it burned. He looks up at you and he starts crying. You weren't expecting that. You just sit there awkward while this old man weeps over a scroll. Finally, he sets it down, wipes his eyes. Forgive me, he says. It's just, we heard the library was destroyed. We assumed everything was lost. Most of it was. But not this. No, not this. He looks at the pile. Do you know what you've done? He asks. You shake your head. You've saved the world, he says. You almost laugh because you don't feel like a savior. You feel like a coward who ran away. But you don't say that, you just nod. Plutarch offers you a job, scribe, teacher, whatever you want. The pay is terrible, the academy is broke, has been for decades, but it's safe, it's work, it's purpose. You accept. And for the first time in 6 months, you sleep through the night. You spend the next 15 years in Athens, copying scrolls, teaching students, living quietly. The academy struggles, enrollment drops every year, funding dries up, but it survives until it doesn't. In 529 AD, Emperor Justinian issues an edict. All pagan schools must close. Immediately, the Academy of Plato, 100 years old, shuts its doors. Forever, you're in your 50s by then, too old to run again, but you don't need to, because by then you've copied the 30 scrolls a dozen times over, sent copies to Constantinople, to Antioch, to private collectors in Rome. The knowledge has spread, not far, not fast. but enough. You die in Athens, in your bed, peacefully. You're 80 years old. Your last thought is of Hypatia drawing triangles in the dirt, and you smile. But the story doesn't end with you, because those 30 scrolls you saved, they traveled from Athens to Constantinople. From Constantinople to Baghdad, when the Islamic Golden Age began and scholars started translating everything they could find, from Baghdad to Cordoba, from Cordoba to Italy. And in the 15th century, when Constantinople fell and its scholars fled west, they brought those texts, copies of copies of copies, with them, and those texts helped spark the Renaissance, the rebirth of learning, the rediscovery of the classical world. All because a 26-year-old scribe refused to let go of a leather bag. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, let me tell you what it cost and what it meant. So you're in Athens now, safe, employed, alive. The 30 scrolls sit in a locked cabinet in the Academy's library, precious, protected, and you're just another scribe again, copying texts, teaching the occasional student. It should feel like a new beginning. It doesn't. It feels like waiting. For what, you're not sure yet. But let me tell you how the rest of your life unfolds. Because your story, the personal one, the one about you asterisk, it matters less than what you carry. And that's exactly how you want it. Your first year in Athens is strange. Everything is smaller city, smaller library, smaller ambitions. The academy has maybe 30 students total, compared to the hundreds who used to flock to the Mausian. The library has maybe 5,000 scrolls. Compared to 400,000, your salary is 8 drachmae a month, barely enough to rent a room and eat. But you don't care about comfort anymore, you care about the work. Every day you copy, you take the 30 scrolls you saved and you make duplicates, carefully, precisely. One copy for the Academy's archive, one to send to a collector in Antioch, one for a scholar in Constantinople who's heard about the Alexandria refugees and wants to help preserve what's left. You work slowly, no rushing, no shortcuts, because every letter matters. One mistake and you've corrupted the text, maybe forever. So you triple-check everything, Archimedes' calculations, Euclid's proofs, Galen's anatomical observations, every single word. You're not alone in this work. There are 7 other scholars at the Academy, all old men, all veterans of a dying tradition. They've seen this before, the slow erosion of the classical world. One of them, a philosopher named Damasius, fought to keep the Academy open when funding was cut 20 years ago. He failed. It stayed open but barely. He's your mentor now, teaches you things you never learned in Alexandria, not just copying techniques, philosophy, deep stuff. Why do we do this? He asks one evening. You're both in the scriptorium, working by lamplight. You look up from your scroll. Do what? Preserve the past, copy dead men's words, teach ideas no one wants to hear anymore. You think about it, because the ideas are true, you say. He smiles, sad, knowing. Truth isn't enough, he says. Truth has never been enough. If it was, Hypatia would still be alive. You don't have an answer for that. He goes back to his work. You go back to yours, but the question stays with you. Why do we do this? Letters arrive from Alexandria occasionally, not often. The city is dangerous for anyone connected to the old scholars, but once a year, maybe twice, a message gets through. The first one comes 8 months after you arrive in Athens. It's from Miriam. She's in Jerusalem now, working as a translator for a wealthy Jewish family. Safe, comfortable even. She saved about 40 scrolls, mostly Hebrew texts, but some Greek philosophy too. She asks about you, about Athens, about the Academy. She doesn't ask about Hypatia. She already knows. You write back, tell her you're well. Tell her the scrolls are safe. You don't tell her that you still have nightmares, that you wake up smelling smoke, that some nights you can't tell if you're 26 or 60, if you're in Athens or Alexandria, if the library is still standing, or if it ever existed at all. You just tell her you're well. 3 years in, you get another letter. This one's different. It's from a man named Isidore. You don't know him, but he says he was a student of Apollonius. He's writing to inform you that Apollonius died, peacefully, in his sleep. He was 74, he never left Alexandria, never converted. Spent his last years copying scrolls in secret, just like he did after the fire. When he died, they found his room. 60 scrolls, hidden under the floorboards. Mathematical texts, mostly. Commentaries on Euclid and Archimedes. Isidore managed to save them before the church confiscated the property. He's asking, do you want them? You write back immediately, yes. The scrolls arrive 4 months later. You open the crate like it contains something holy, which in a way it does. 60 scrolls, Apollonius's last act of defiance. You unroll the first one, and you start crying, because it's in his handwriting. You'd know it anywhere. The slightly slanted letters, the careful spacing, the way he always made his alphas just a little too wide. He's been dead for months, but here he is, still teaching, still preserving, still refusing to let the fire win. You copy all 60 scrolls. It takes you a year, but you do it. And with each one, you feel like you're sitting next to him again, working side by side in the library that no longer exists. Sometimes you talk to him while you work, out loud, even though you're alone. Got it, Apollonius? This theorem, Euclid's proof of the infinitude of primes, it's beautiful. Silence, of course, but you imagine his voice anyway. Beautiful and true, that's what matters. You smile, keep copying. The students at the academy are not what you expected. Most of them are rich kids, sons of wealthy families who send them to Athens because it's fashionable. A classical education looks good. They don't care about philosophy. They care about rhetoric, how to argue, how to win debates, how to sound smart at dinner parties. It's frustrating. But every few years you get one student who actually wants to learn, who asks real questions, who stays after the lecture to talk about Plato's theory of forms or Zeno's paradoxes, or whether the soul is mortal or immortal. Those students make it worthwhile. One of them, a young man named Simplicius, asks you one day, why did they burn the library? You're both sitting in the courtyard. It's spring. The olive trees are blooming. You don't answer right away. Because they were afraid, you finally say, of books. Of questions. Books make you ask questions. Questions threaten certainty, and people who are certain they're right, they can't tolerate questions. Simplicius thinks about this. Are you certain about anything? He asks. You smile. I'm certain that I'm uncertain about almost everything, and that's okay. He laughs. Years later, he'll become one of the last great commentators on Aristotle. His works will survive. They'll be translated into Arabic, then Latin. They'll help preserve Aristotle for the medieval world. But you don't know that yet. You just know he's a good student, and that's enough. Time moves strangely when you're old. The days crawl. The years sprint. One moment you're 40, copying Archimedes by lamplight. The next you're 50 and your hands shake when you write. Then 60, your eyesight is going. You need brighter lamps. Younger eyes to check your work. 70, you don't copy anymore, you just teach. And then suddenly you're 80 years old. You've outlived everyone, Apollonius. Miriam, you heard she died in Jerusalem, peacefully, surrounded by family. Hypatia, dead for 40 years now, but you still think about her constantly. Damasius, he died 10 years ago. The academy barely survived without him. It won't survive much longer. The year is 529 AD. You're 80 years old, sitting in the academy courtyard. Same olive trees, older now like you. A messenger arrives, imperial courier, official seal. Plutarch, still the director, somehow still alive at 90, opens the letter, reads it. His face goes gray. What is it? You ask. He hands you the letter. You read it. It's from Emperor Justinian. By imperial decree, all non-Christian schools are to be shut down immediately. The Academy of Plato, operating for 916 years, is ordered to close permanently. There's no fire this time, no mob, no violence, just a letter, and suddenly it's over. The students are sent home. The scrolls are packed up, some go to Constantinople, some to private collectors, some just disappear. The buildings are seized by the state. The academy is finished. You walk through the empty halls one last time, your footsteps echo. You stop in the scriptorium, the room where you spent 50 years copying scrolls. The desks are still there, the ink pots, the pen racks. But no people, no voices, no work. You sit at your old desk, run your hand over the wood. It's worn smooth in places. 50 years of your elbows resting here. You close your eyes, and you let yourself remember. Not the fire, not the murder, not the loss. You remember the good parts. The library at dawn, sunlight through the windows, the smell of papyrus and ink, Apollonius explaining a theorem, Miriam laughing at something, Hypatia drawing in the dirt. The moment you first unrolled a scroll and realized you were reading words written 500 years ago by someone who wanted you asterisk, you specifically, whoever you turned out to be, to understand. That's what you remember, and you smile. You live for 3 more years, quietly, in a small room near the Agora. You don't work, you're too old, you just exist. Sometimes students visit you. Former students, now middle-aged men with families. They bring you food, ask you questions. You tell them stories about Alexandria, about the library, about Hypatia. They listen like children, because by now it's myth. Ancient history, but you were there. You're the last one who was there. One of them asks, near the end, was it worth it, everything you went through, everything you lost, for 30 scrolls? You're quiet for a long time. They weren't just scrolls, you finally say, they were proof. Proof of what? That humans can be better than they are, that we can think, create, discover, build something beautiful just because it's beautiful. But they destroyed it. They destroyed the building, not the idea. You tap his head, it's still here. As long as someone remembers, it's not gone. He nods, doesn't fully understand, but maybe someday he will. You die on a Tuesday, nothing dramatic, you just don't wake up. One moment you're asleep, the next you're not. There's no pain, no fear, just a gentle stop. Your last thought, if you could call it a thought, it's more like a feeling, is of the library, not burning whole. You're walking through it, 25 years old again. Strong, healthy, Apollonius is at his desk. Miriam is translating, Hypatia is teaching, and you're holding a scroll, Archimedes, on floating bodies. You unroll it, begin to read, and you're home. They bury you in a simple grave outside Athens. No marker, no epitaph, you're not famous, not important, just a scribe who lived a long time and copied some books. Within a generation, no one remembers your name, but the scrolls, those survive. Philosophical transition. Let me tell you what happened to them. Because this is where your story stops being about you and starts being about something bigger. The 30 scrolls you saved, and the 60 from Apollonius, and the copies you made over 50 years, they scattered. Some stayed in Athens, hidden in private collections. Some went to Constantinople, the Eastern Roman Empire, now called Byzantium, still Christian, but they valued learning. They kept the texts safe. Some went to monasteries. Christian monks who, despite everything, recognized that Euclid and Archimedes were too valuable to burn. And when the Islamic Golden Age began, in the 8th, 9th, 10th centuries, Muslim scholars in Baghdad started collecting every Greek text they could find. They translated them, Arabic translations of Greek originals. They studied them, built on them, made new discoveries, and those translations eventually made their way to Spain, to Cordoba, to Toledo, where Christian scholars in the 12th century translated them back into Latin. Latin translations of Arabic translations of Greek originals, 3 languages, hundreds of years, thousands of miles, but the knowledge survived. And in 1453, when Constantinople finally fell to the Ottomans, the scholars there fled. They went to Italy, to Florence, to Rome, to Venice, and they brought their libraries with them, Greek texts, ancient knowledge. The scholars of Italy read them, were inspired by them, and they started something new, or rather something very old brought back to life, the Renaissance, the rebirth. Michelangelo read Plato, Leonardo studied Archimedes, Galileo built on Ptolemy, all because a 26-year-old scribe refused to leave a library without grabbing what he could carry. Was it worth it? You asked yourself that question every day for 54 years. You never found a satisfying answer. But here's the thing, you don't get to know if it was worth it. You don't get to see the Renaissance. Don't get to see the scientific revolution. Don't get to see humans land on the moon using mathematics that Archimedes helped invent. You just do the work. You save what you can. You pass it on. And you hope that someone, somewhere, sometime will find it and think, this matters. And they did, centuries later, thousands of miles away. Someone opened a scroll, a copy of a copy of a copy of one you saved, and they thought exactly that. This matters. And they learned, and they built, and they taught someone else, and the chain continued, unbroken, fragile as papyrus, strong as stone. Final meditation. So here's what I want you to take from this. Not the sadness, not the loss, not the fire, but this. Humans destroy, we are good at it, really good. Empires, libraries, each other, we burn what we don't understand, kill what we fear. We're capable of extraordinary cruelty, but we're also capable of extraordinary stubborn hope. The kind of hope that carries 30 scrolls across an ocean. The kind that spends 50 years copying texts no one wants to read. The kind that says, I don't know if this will matter, but I'm doing it anyway. That's the legacy, not the scrolls themselves, but the decision to save them, the refusal to let the fire have the final word. You listening to this in 2025, you're part of that chain. You carry more knowledge in your pocket right now than the Library of Alexandria ever held. Every book ever written, every theorem ever proved, every question ever asked, it's all there, one click away. And it's just as fragile as papyrus, maybe more because we've forgotten how to value it. We scroll past it, ignore it, assume it'll always be there, but it won't, not unless someone decides it's worth saving. Worth copying, worth passing on. So ask yourself, what are you carrying? What knowledge, what truth, what beauty are you responsible for? And what are you doing to make sure it survives? Not for you, for the person 100 years from now who needs it, who's searching for it, who's hoping desperately that someone, anyone, cared enough to save it. Be that person, be the scribe, not because it's easy, not because you'll be famous, not because you'll ever know if it mattered, but because the alternative is silence, and silence is how we forget who we are. Quiet, intimate ending. The scribe died in Athens, 80 years old, forgotten, but the scrolls lived. And because the scrolls lived, so did Archimedes, Euclid, Galen, Hypatia, so did the library, not in stone, in us, and that asterisk is worth everything. But wait, you probably want to know the details, what exactly was lost, what survived. How much knowledge disappeared forever in that fire, and how does it compare to what we have now? Let me show you, let's talk numbers. Because the human brain isn't good with abstract loss. The Library of Alexandria burned sounds tragic, sure, but it's hard to grasp, so let me make it concrete. Let me show you exactly what we lost, and what, against all odds, we kept. The Library of Alexandria, at its peak, held approximately 400,000 scrolls. Maybe more, the numbers vary depending on which ancient source you trust. Some say 500,000, some say 700,000, but let's be conservative. Let's say 400,000. Now, here's the thing about ancient scrolls. One scroll doesn't equal one book in the modern sense. A scroll could hold maybe 10,000 to 15,000 words, about the length of a short novella. So if you wanted to fit, say, Homer's Iliad which is about 150,000 words, you'd need roughly 10 to 15 scrolls. The library didn't have 400,000 asterisk works. It had 400,000 asterisk scrolls. Scholars estimate that represents maybe 100,000 individual works, unique texts, different authors, different ideas, different worlds, 100,000 works. Now, guess how many survived? Go on, guess, seriously. Pick a number, got it, okay. The answer is we don't know exactly, but we can estimate. Of the ancient Greek and Roman literature that existed in the Library of Alexandria, the plays, the poems, the histories, the philosophies, we have roughly 1% left. 1%, 99% is gone, vanished. Let that sit for a moment. Let me give you specifics. Greek drama. The golden age of Athenian theatre, 5th century BC, produced three great tragedians, Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. We know from ancient records that Aeschylus wrote about 90 plays, Sophocles wrote about 123 plays, Euripides wrote about 92 plays, that's 305 plays total. Guess how many survive in full? 33. We have 33 complete plays out of 305, the rest, fragments or nothing at all. We know they existed. Ancient critics referenced them, quoted from them, but the full texts, gone. Comedy is worse. Aristophanes wrote about 40 plays. We have 11. Menander, considered the Shakespeare of ancient Greece, wrote over 100 plays. We have *1 complete play. 1, the rest are fragments. A page here, a scene there, scraps. Poetry. Sappho of Lesbos, one of the greatest lyric poets in history. Ancient critics ranked her alongside Homer. She wrote 9 books of poetry, 9 entire volumes. We have one complete poem, one, the rest, fragments, some just a few words long, and I long and I seek after. Remember that, the fragment the scribe found in the ruins, that's most of what we have of Sappho, pieces, echoes, ghosts of brilliance. History. Livy wrote a history of Rome called ab urb condita from the founding of the city. 142 books. We have 35, the rest, lost. Polybius wrote 40 books of history. We have 5 complete books and fragments of the rest. Tacitus wrote at least 30 books. We have maybe half. Entire centuries of history, detailed eyewitness accounts, just erased. We know more about what the Romans ate for breakfast than we do about entire decades of their political history, not because food was more important, but because cookbooks survived and histories didn't. Random chance, luck or lack thereof. Science and mathematics. This is where it really hurts. Archimedes wrote at least 13 major works. We have 9, maybe 10 depending on how you count. 4 are lost. 4 works by the greatest mathematician of antiquity. Gone. One of them, on sphere making was about building mechanical devices, basically ancient robotics. Imagine what we could have learned. But it's gone. Euclid's elements survived. Thank God, or thank the scribes more accurately. But dozens of other mathematical treatises didn't. Eratosthenes' work on measuring the earth, mostly lost. Hipparchus's star catalogues, lost. Heron of Alexandria's engineering designs, fragments only. Medicine. Galen wrote approximately 500 treatises on medicine and philosophy. About a third survive, the rest, lost, which means we lost potentially life-saving medical knowledge, surgical techniques, pharmaceutical recipes, observations about diseases, how many people died in the Middle Ages from illnesses that ancient doctors knew how to treat. We'll never know, because the books that could have told us are ash. Here's a thought that should keep you up at night, except you're trying to sleep, so maybe save it for later. The scientific revolution didn't happen until the 16th and 17th centuries, but the ancient Greeks and Romans had already figured out. The Earth is round. Eratosthenes measured its circumference in 240 BC. He was off by less than 2%. The Earth orbits the Sun. Aristarchus proposed heliocentrism in the 3rd century BC. It was rejected, but he proposed it. Basic steam power. Heron of Alexandria built a steam engine, a toy but functional. Automatic doors, vending machines, alarm clocks. They were this close, and then the knowledge was lost, and humanity had to start over. 1500 years later, imagine if we hadn't lost it. Imagine if the Renaissance had happened in 500 AD instead of 1500 AD. Where would we be now? Don't think about that too hard. It's too depressing. Instead, let's talk about what survived, because some things did, against all odds. What we kept, Plato's dialogues, most of them anyway. We're missing a few, but we have the important ones. The Republic, the Symposium, Feed. Aristotle's lecture notes. They're dry, dense, hard to read, but they survived. His polished works, the ones meant for public reading, those are lost. But his teaching notes made it. Homer, the Iliad and Odyssey survived because they were so popular. Everyone had a copy. Hard to lose something when it's everywhere. Euclid's elements survived intact, still taught today, 2,300 years later. Some of Archimedes, not all but some of Galen, some of Plutarch. Some of Herodotus and Thucydides, Virgil's Aeneid, Ovid's Metamorphoses. The important stuff mostly, the classics, but here's the thing, we only call them classics because they survived. Maybe there were better works. Maybe there was a play more moving than Sophocles, a philosopher deeper than Plato, a poet more beautiful than Sappho, but we'll never know because they didn't make it. How did the survivors make it? Luck mostly, popularity helped. If a text was copied hundreds of times, scattered across the empire, it had a better chance. But also monks, here's the irony. The same religious institution that burned the Library of Alexandria, or at least enabled its destruction, also saved much of what remained. Christian monks in medieval monasteries spent centuries copying ancient texts, not because they loved paganism, many of them didn't, but because they valued knowledge, or because they needed the parchment and scraped off the original text to write prayers over it. Yes, that happened. It's called a palimpsest. Heartbreaking, but at least sometimes we can still read what's underneath. And later, during the Islamic Golden Age, Muslim scholars in Baghdad translated everything Greek they could find. They preserved it, studied it, built on it. When those Arabic translations eventually made it back to Europe, they reignited Western philosophy and science. So the knowledge survived, not all of it, not most of it, but some, enough to rebuild, slowly, painfully, but rebuild nonetheless. Now let's talk about the modern world, because here's the uncomfortable parallel. The internet is the Library of Alexandria. Think about it. It's the largest collection of human knowledge ever assembled, bigger than Alexandria, bigger than anything, every book, every article, every photo, every song. Every idea anyone has ever bothered to digitize. It's all there, free, accessible, instant. It's a miracle, and it's just as fragile as papyrus. Wait, you might be thinking, the internet is fragile, it's everywhere, backed up, distributed. Sure, but here's the thing, websites disappear, all the time. Studies estimate that the average lifespan of a web page is about 100 days. 100 days, then it's gone, deleted, domain expired, company went bankrupt. Server shut down. Think about all the websites you used to visit 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how many still exist? Not many. And even when we try to archive things, sites like the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, we're only capturing a fraction. Most of it just evaporates, digital decay. And that's just technical failure. What about deliberate destruction? Governments censor, corporations scrub, platforms ban, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes not. But either way, knowledge disappears. And because it's digital, it can disappear completely. When the Library of Alexandria burned, at least there was ash, evidence, memory. When a server gets wiped, nothing, it's like it never existed. Here's another fun thought. Most of our data is stored in formats that require specific technology to read. Right now, you can read a book from 1823, just pick it up, open it, read. But can you read a floppy disk from 1993? Not without a floppy drive, which most computers don't have anymore. Can you open a file saved in WordPerfect 5.1? Not easily. We're creating knowledge faster than ever, and losing the ability to access it almost as fast. So what do we do? How do we make sure we don't become the next Alexandria? I don't have a perfect answer, but I know this. It requires the same thing it required in 391 AD. People who care, people who copy, preserve, distribute, people who say, this matters, this is worth saving. Not for profit, not for fame, just because it's the right thing to do. The scribes who saved those 30 scrolls from Alexandria, they're not famous, we don't even know most of their names, but without them, we wouldn't have Archimedes, Euclid, Galen, we wouldn't have the foundations of modern science. The same is true today. The librarians, the archivists, the Wikipedia editors, the people who run the Internet Archive, they're not famous. They're not getting rich, but they're doing the work, saving what can be saved, passing it on, being the fragile human link in the chain. So here's my challenge to you, not tonight, you're about to fall asleep. This isn't the time for action, but tomorrow or next week, or whenever you're ready, ask yourself, what do I know that's worth preserving? Maybe it's not Archimedes-level mathematics. Maybe it's just a family recipe, a story your grandmother told you, a skill you learned from someone who's gone now. Write it down, record it, share it, put it somewhere safe, somewhere it can outlive you, because that's how knowledge survives, not in buildings, not in servers, in the decision made over and over again by ordinary people that the past is worth remembering. The Library of Alexandria is gone. It's been gone for 1,600 years, but the idea of it, the dream of collecting all human knowledge in one place and making it available to everyone, that's still alive. It lives in every library, every museum, every archive, every time you look something up and find the answer, every time you learn something new from someone long dead, every time you think, I should save this, someone might need it someday. That's the library, not a building, an impulse, a choice, a stubborn, hopeful, beautiful refusal to let the fire win. And that's the real legacy, not the scrolls that survived, but the people who cared enough to save them, people like you, like me. Like the 26-year-old scribe who carried 30 scrolls across the Mediterranean because he couldn't bear to let them burn. We're all scribes now, copying, preserving, passing on, one text at a time, one idea at a time, one fragile, precious piece of human knowledge at a time. So next time you read something beautiful, bookmark it. Next time you learn something important, share it. Next time you think, I should write that down, actually do it. Be the library, be the keeper, be the link in the chain, because chains break easily. But if enough of us hold on, if enough of us refuse to let go, the chain can survive anything, even fire, even time, even the end of empires. The scribe didn't know if it was worth it. He died wondering, but we know because we're here. Reading Archimedes, studying Euclid, building on foundations laid 2,000 years ago by people who will never know they succeeded. That's the answer. It was worth it. Every sacrifice, every loss, every sleepless night copying scrolls by candlelight, worth it, because the knowledge survived, and so did we. Soft, final meditation. So now close your eyes, breathe slowly, and imagine you're walking through the Library of Alexandria, not the one that burned, the one that could have been, the one that exists in potential, in dreams, in every library we build and every book we save. The halls are endless, the scrolls are infinite. Every question you've ever had, someone has answered it. Somewhere, somewhen, every story you've ever wanted to hear, it's waiting. Every idea, every discovery, every beautiful thought humanity has ever had, it's all here. Safe, preserved, yours, not because someone gave it to you, but because someone, 1,000 someones across 1,000 years, decided it was worth saving, for you. Walk those halls now, in your mind. As you drift towards sleep, know that you're part of something bigger, a chain of human hands passing knowledge forward, from past to present, from present to future, unbroken, fragile, eternal. The library never truly burned. It just moved into us. And as long as we remember, as long as we care, it never will. Sleep well, the scrolls are safe. And that's our story, the rise and fall and secret survival of the Library of Alexandria, the scribes who saved what they could, the knowledge that traveled across centuries and continents to reach us. And you, yes, you carrying it forward. If you've made it this far, if you've spent the last 2 hours with me traveling from ancient Egypt to modern times, from scrolls to servers, from fire to hope, thank you, seriously. Thank you for giving your time to a story about people who died 16 centuries ago, but who loved the same thing you do, learning, understanding, the simple, stubborn belief that knowledge matters. That's not something you can take for granted. Not anymore, maybe not ever. So thank you for caring. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you why libraries and books and the preservation of knowledge matter, then please hit that subscribe button. Not for me, I'll be fine. But because stories like this take time to research and tell, and the more people who support them, the more we can make. Stories about forgotten heroes, lost civilizations, the fragile threads that connect our past to our future. And while you're at it, give the video a like. It helps more people find it. More people who might need to hear that someone, somewhere, once carried scrolls across an ocean just to keep an idea alive. I want to know something. In the comments below, tell me this. If you had been that scribe in Alexandria, if you could only save 10 scrolls from the burning library, which 10 would you choose? Think about it. What knowledge, what stories, what ideas would you risk everything to preserve? Don't overthink it. Just what matters to you. What would you want to survive? I read every comment, I promise. And I'm genuinely curious, because your choices say something about who we are, what we value, what we think deserves to survive the next fire. And there will be a next fire. There always is. The question is, will we be ready? If you want more stories like this, history that makes you think, tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, bedtime stories for adults who have forgotten how to wonder, there are plenty more on this channel. The next video is already queued up. Another journey into the past. Another forgotten story that's not as forgotten as it should be. Click it or don't. Save it for another night when you need to remember that humans, despite everything, are capable of beautiful, stubborn, hopeful things. The stories will be here, waiting, like scrolls on a shelf, but for now, turn off the screen, put your phone face down, close your eyes, and let your mind wander through those endless halls. The Library of Alexandria, not as it was, burned, destroyed, lost, but as it could be. As it is in every library we build, every book we save, every story we tell. Feel the weight of knowledge in your hands, the responsibility, the privilege. You are the keeper now, you are the link in the chain. You are the reason those 30 scrolls survived their journey across time and space and human stubbornness to reach this moment, this quiet moment, before sleep. So rest well knowing that tomorrow the work continues, not grand work, not famous work. Just the simple, essential work of being human, of caring, preserving, passing on, of refusing to let the fire have the final word. Good night, sleep peacefully, and dream of libraries that stretch beyond the horizon, of knowledge that refuses to die, of scribes, ancient and modern, doing what they've always done. Keeping the light burning, one word at a time.